It looks like there's questions. Let me just try again. Do you mind refreshing um the the page for Top Hat? Oh, sorry, my bad, guys. I messed up. We're a beginner Saturday. I opened up beginner Thursday. That was on me. I'm gonna fix that. Okay, now the session six questions should be up. So if you guys feel free to log into Top Hat and answer those questions, I'll give you guys like a bit of time, or at least until the next question we ask. Okay. Okay. So okay, so you got 14 responses. A lot of people are saying that they were a bit harder this time. And some people did not attempt their exercises. So try your best on the exercises and see, and just put in a bit of effort. If they were challenging for you, just try your best. And if it's challenging for you, that's really good because that means you're learning a lot more than the people who it was easy for. So that's good. Okay, awesome. So let's get started with the lesson. So today is session six. So what are we going to talk about today? So some things we're going to talk about are some cool applications of software engineering, a way to check for your mouse clicks, and we're going to be talking about functions today as well. So it's going to be a pretty interesting class. So let's get started. So if you guys remember last time we talked about this four in range idea. So range is a list of numbers from 0 to 1 less than the given number. For example, range of 5 would give basically a list of 0 to 4, not including 5. So it gives you five different numbers, right? So it repeats something five times and if the values of I, for example, in this for loop would be 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Um, if you guys would like, I have some examples prepared, trinket examples prepared. Um, right here. Okay, so here we can kind of just see how the loop kind of works. Sorry, guys. Okay. Let's try this. Sorry, that was just an issue with the spacing. Okay, so yeah, as you guys can see, it'll just print out a loop. So if you put in one value, it'll start from zero. And if you put in two values, it'll start from the first number and go one before the second number, as you guys can see. So this one went from 11 all the way to 10. So it stops before 10. And then this example down here is very similar to this example right here. We covered this example already last class, so I probably won't run through it too much. Basically, this just prints out a bunch of different circles that have the specific location and the specific sizes, step like one by one. But yeah, like for example, there's going to be a circle. The first circle that's going to be created in the first iteration of the loop is going to be have a location of 40 and 40 and a size of 12 and 12. So in case you guys are wondering. So let's talk a little bit about mouse inputs. We talked a little bit about this last time. So we can use the mouse pressed function to do something only once when we click on the mouse. Def mouse pressed will do something specific like if we click on the screen. So we add the mouse press to our code the same way we have setup and draw. Whatever we write under mouse pressed will run once each time we press the mouse button. So as you guys remember, we have a couple different functions that come with the processing import. We have setup, we have draw, and we have run. And now we're adding a new one called mouse pressed. Um, so I'll show you a quick example of how we're kind of using it. Um, sorry. It's a bit hard to show examples because I have to keep switching tabs, but okay. So this is the most pressed example. Okay. So here, this is a very simple example of how most pressed would kind of work. So here, what we have is we're importing the processing, as you guys know, and we're setting up a 500 by 500 page with a blue background. Uh, sorry. Yeah, with the blue background and Uh, the fill of 225 is basically white. This will make sense a bit later on. Um, we have nothing in our draw function because we're not really drawing anything. But as you guys can see down here, we have this ellipse, um, which basically is a circle, right? So we're creating a circle at with the location of mouse X and mouse Y at 50. So when I click the mouse here, what it will do is each time I click it, it'll create a circle at that specific mouse X and mouse Y value. So, and it won't really go away. So as you guys can see here, we're able to create a bunch of circles. So that's kind of how you use mouse pressed. It's very similar to the draw and setup function. Awesome. Let's get back. So let's talk a little bit about functions. So I've been using this word a lot throughout some of our lessons. And in case some of you guys are wondering what functions actually are, so functions, let's kind of talk about it. Functions are blocks of code with a name that we can call to perform a single task. So, um, so if we use a function, we're able to use like a bunch of the code and we're able to like bunch it up into one single block, as you guys can see. And what that does is it kind of reduces the amount of code we have to like write and kind of maintain. So what maintain means is like let's say you want to make a small change in your code. If you don't use a function, then you will have to go to every point in the code and then change it each time. But if we use a function, then you can change it at one point and it will make the change happen through all of the times you use the function. So it's effective like that. If what I said doesn't make sense, it will very shortly. You can also reuse blocks of code with known behavior. For example, like you don't have to keep writing out the same like math or the same logic continuously, and you could just use it in one go. And you're also able to recycle the code using different inputs because functions you can pass in input values. So you're able to return like different kinds of input values. So this will all make a lot more sense um, when you guys are working with functions. Okay, so let's talk about like kind of a functions analogy. So a car has many different components. Each one is like a function. For example, a gas pedal moves the car forward. The steering wheel helps it change directions, and the brake pedal helps it slow down. So kind of what this kind of means is it like for example, when you click on the gas pedal, you don't really have to like mess with the engine or anything like that. The gas pedal only moves it forward and that's it, and you don't have to think about anything else. So that's kind of how a function works. So let's say you had an add function and it had two parameters. All it would do is add the two numbers together, and you wouldn't never have to really think about what's happening inside of this add function, just like you don't have to think about what's happening inside of your gas pedal. These are just three and many more complex components simplify the complex mechanisms of the car. So, for example, we're still going to continue with this car example. Um, when you press your gas pedal, your foot presses the pedal. The process is more gas will flow into the engine. The pistons in the engine move faster, and the wheels spin with more force. But and the output is the car moves faster. But when you do it, when you click on the gas pedal with the process, because that function has already been pre-created for you, all you have to care about is the input and if you're getting the output that you want. So drivers only need to know about push the gas to go fast. So far, we've been using functions a lot. Although it doesn't look like it, we've been using functions a lot. For example, print is a function because it prints something, right? Whatever is inside the brackets, you don't really have to think about how it prints something, but you just know it does. Same thing goes with ellipse. You don't really have to think about how it creates a circle, you just know it does. Same with fill and then also with background. So each function has a single action and has like a very specific purpose. And yeah, so some functions give a return value after their call. For example, the functions that I have here don't really give you any values. For example, you can't really assign them to anything. They just complete a specific task. But for example, the length function, what it will do is it'll give you the length value of a list and it stores it inside of list length, right? And another value that has a return value is the random.returnInt function. So it returns a random number between the two values that are passed in and stores it inside of random num. So there's a couple different kinds of functions. Okay, so let's kind of talk about why we even use functions. If we wanted to draw a town with a lot of houses, the code would look like this without using functions, right? So you'd set up your size, but you constantly have to repeat the exact same code over and over and over again, right? Um, for example, what you have here is for each rectangle, you have its like kind of starting point and you're adding 10 to it each time. So over here, you're adding 10 to it, you're adding 10. These values are all the same. And you're kind of really following the exact same pattern for each of the houses, right? So there's a lot and a lot of repetition. And you're probably wondering, like, how can I kind of fix this, right? So that's where functions really come in. If you used a function, you could block this one step of code and make it work for one of them and keep reusing it for all the other different values. So we're kind of going to show you how to do that. So using functions, our code is now much shorter. So here we just say, have to set it up. We have to give it a background. And then all we have to do is put in one of the values, just like you would for like maybe a circle or an ellipse. You just have to put in the X and Y values. Same thing goes with the draw house. Now the house you can think of as a shape. You just have to put in the coordinates and that's all. That's all you have to do. And the math will be taken care of and the drawing will be taken care of. So that's kind of how it works. Okay, awesome. So we reached our first top hat question. I will try opening it up um, on the top hat. Oh, um, okay. Okay, awesome. So the top hat question got started. Awesome. We're getting a lot of responses, so that's really good. Okay, so which of the following is false? So functions can be utilized as reusable chunks of code. That should be correct. Functions should be used to perform one specific action. I feel like they could be used to perform a couple different actions. Functions can only be called in draw. I'm not sure. There's no limits on how many times you can call a function. Okay. So which one do you guys think it is? It looks like a lot of you guys are really saying C. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna close the top hat um before I answer the question. Okay guys. So you guys have like 5 more seconds to answer. You guys are gonna answer. All right, I'm gonna unassign. Okay. So the correct answer in this case is actually C. So functions can only be called in the draw function. Um, draw function, yeah. So you're probably wondering why this is the case. This is because like it continues to run constantly. Um, so the draw method will continue to like run every single time. So it consistently updates the function each time. And then all the other ones, oh sorry. Um, yeah, so you can use the functions inside of anywhere you want. You can use them in the setup function, or even outside of the draw function to create a function. Sorry, that was confusing. But yeah, they're obviously reusable. We already talked about that. They can be used to perform um one specific action. And then there's no limits to how many times you can call a function. So we already talked about that, so that's good. Okay, so you're probably wondering how can I make my own function? So let's create our first function. So here is the anatomy of a function. So you use the def keyword. So this kind of you can think of meaning like define, right? So it's like a shortened define keyword. So def name and parameters, right? So name is the name of the function. And parameters is optional. Parameters is like, let's say there's a value you want to pass, you want the user or like when the function is used, you want that value to be passed in so the function can work with that value. Then you'd pass in like maybe a variable or something like that that you could use inside of your function. This will make more sense as we keep proceeding. Um, so the function body, so that's kind of like your what that function is actually trying to do. And you could also, this is also optional, but you could return a value. Some functions don't return a value. Like I said, they just complete a specific task. Like for example, the fill or the ellipse function, and stuff like that, or they just print a value. But yeah, so those two, the parameters and the return value are optional, but the name and body are mandatory. So all functions have a name. This is what we call our function. So def, um, uh, so def name parameters. For example, if we had this one called def greeting, here we're creating a function with the name of greeting. This function currently has no body, parameters, or return value. So this function does nothing right now, but and also, like I said, you do need to have a function body. So this function is technically not a valid function, but it will be if once you give it a function body. All functions have a body. This is what the function does. This is where you write your code. Okay. So for example, like in this def greeting, if we add print hello to this body of the function, this is the code that will run when we call greeting. Sorry guys. Just one second, my mom's calling me. I'll be right back. Um, all right, sorry guys. Um, okay, let's continue. So we add the print hello to the body of the function. This is the code that will run when we call greeting. Sorry. We have made our first function. This function just does something. It has no parameters. It has no return value needed. The name's greeting and the body is one line, print hello world. So if we want to add our function to our code, what we kind of have to do is we have to create our functions outside of the setup and draw function, draw functions. Um, and then use them inside of them later on. So here we put our def greeting outside of the def setup and the def draw, and then we pass the values in, and then we can use them later inside of the setup and draw. The function body instructs what a function does, but it does not run the function. You must call a function to run it, right? So inside of this, even if we just put def greeting down here, but if we don't utilize it inside of our setup or our draw, then it actually won't run. So we can call our function inside of the setup or draw. So when we do that, right at the beginning, in the setup function, it will be called and it will print out hello world to the console. Okay, so we reached our first exercise. So it's an exercise called random circle function. We'll break up into breakout rooms. One second. I think somebody has a comment. Would the program not run because the function is defined before it's used? Okay, sorry guys. I'm gonna just talk about that real quick. That's actually a really good question. No, okay. So how a function works is it's actually like right at the beginning of the code, you can think about um a function just being preloaded into the computer, right? So it's loaded immediately and it can be used by any other this is not it doesn't go top down like it does with like the code inside of your met functions and stuff like that. It goes like it gets put immediately. The computer immediately knows what greeting is, since you use the def keyword. So it's like it's already defined, and then you can use it in anywhere else that you would like in your code, inside of the other functions. Um, so yeah, that's kind of how a function kind of works. You can use, you can like declare a function later on, but use it above or like in a code above it, as long as it's in the scope, if that makes any sense. As you guys kind of work with it, it will make more sense. Coding is something kind of you have to like really try at it to understand it. Awesome. Okay, but yeah, that was a good question actually. So yeah, so you just create a function called random circles that gets called when the mouse is pressed. We're gonna break up into our breakout rooms and they will just talk about it. Um, okay, awesome. Hey, Tyra or Malia, do you guys have any questions or can I help you guys find your breakout rooms? Malia, can I help you? Awesome. Okay. Hey guys, welcome back. Was everyone able to kind of understand the solution with their mentors, or like how was it? Yep. Okay. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. This is like a good time to ask if you're confused a little bit about how functions kind of work. I'll give you guys like 5 seconds. Okay. Okay. Let's move on then. My code looks like okay. That's good. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to code for sure. Let's move on. Um, and start talking about parameters. Yes. Okay. So parameters are optional variables that are used as inputs by the function. The function body treats them like normal variables. However, you don't set the value. The value gets passed in when the function is called, right? So let me show you guys a quick example. So here, um, just small example, just a quick example on parameters, right? So as you guys can see here, what we have is we have a function called add numbers that we created. Inside of add numbers, we have two parameters, a parameter A and parameter B. And what we do is we have a return value of A plus B. So the two values added up together, right? So at this point, like we haven't really we need to pass values into A and B for this thing to return properly, right? So to be able to add two numbers. So we can use when we call add numbers down here, 5 and 3, what it does is it adds 5 and 3 together, goes all the way up here, looks up here, and then is like, oh, let's add these two numbers together, returns this value of 8, puts it into result, and then result gets printed out down here, and then we get 8. And as that was mentioned before, it doesn't matter if we define the add numbers function below or above the sorry, 1 second. Hold up. Actually, it does. It does matter in this case. So yeah, it does. You have to make sure to define your method before you use it inside of when you use it in the same place. So this is in the same scope. But for example, if you had a method, um, like let's say we had two methods. Um, yeah, you have to define it before actually. I was mistaken. That was on me. I was mistaken. When it's in the same scope, you have to make sure to define add numbers or the method um or your function before you actually use it inside of your code. Okay, so just make sure to take note of that. Okay. All right, so that's how the parameters works. Okay, so let's explain this. Okay, so like I just went through the example, this is a function that adds two numbers together. It takes in two parameters, A and B, and it prints the sum of the two inputs. So here we are adding A and B, and it prints the sum of A and B. just like we just did. Um, Parameters for, so another example of parameters, setup calls add with inputs of 3 and 5. So here we are kind of doing something very similar. Um, we are we have the add function, and inside of the setup function, we're calling this add function, and then we're adding the three values together, putting them into sum, and then we're printing out the sum. So this doesn't actually return anything, but this doesn't have a return value, but it just prints out the value of sum. Um, but yeah, note that the order of parameters during the function need to be consistent with the function definition. Sorry, my monitor is behind my laptop, so it's hard for me to see. Um, but yeah, let's continue. So another quick question, top hat question. Um, so fill in the blanks. I'm gonna go and open up the top hat question on Safari. Okay. Okay, so I've assigned the question. So you guys can answer it. I don't know where the okay, there it is. Okay, so that's the two blanks. So you guys can have a look at the blanks while you guys are answering it. Um, okay, yeah, just take your time answering it. I'll give you guys a bit of time. Okay, guys, I'm gonna unassign it in 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay, actually, I'm gonna just go over the solution a little bit as well to give you guys hints so more of you guys can kind of get it right. Um, so yeah, so here we have a blank in the setup function. So as you guys know, like the first blank is gonna be our function name. So divide by 3, which um some people maybe struggle to understand. Some people are thinking that the name of our function is function, but our name of the function is actually divide by 3. So blank one is going to be divide by 3. That's just a small hint for you that for those that put in blank one is function. And then over here, blank 2 is going to be our parameter. So you guys kind of just a small hint. Okay, guys, I'm going to unassign it now. Okay, so the correct answer in this case was B, where blank 1 is divide by 3 because that is our function name. And blank 2 is actually our parameter. So it's just a variable. So in this case, our variable is number because that's the only value here that is not defined beforehand. So blank 2 is just going to be number. So that most of you guys got it right though. So that's really good. Okay. So functions can have a return value. This is where the function gives back when it finishes executing the instructions. I kind of already went over it with the add example that I had on Trinket. So the add returned a value of the two values combined. So and then and then I assigned it to a different variable inside of my actual like code when I used it. So return values can be anything, such as a number or a string. So the return value gives a value back that you can either use in like maybe a different function, or you could print it out, or you can assign it to a variable in your code. But yeah, so here's an example. Here is a function with a return value of it. What? Um, here's a function with a return value. It has no input parameters and it returns an integer. So here we have 2 plus 2. So in this function, what we're adding is we're adding 2 plus 2 together. We're putting into answer, and then we're returning the answer, which is 4. So 2 plus 2, as we already know, is going to be 4. Put it into the variable of x, and then the very value of x, which is 4, is added to the value of 1, so it prints out 5, right? Um, the return value should be stored in a variable x uh, to use in the code. Okay, perfect. Yeah. But yeah, you always have to store the return value. Awesome. Okay, so another example. Um, so here we have def setup. We're calculating the area. So we have a parameter of 2, and we're passing it into our calculate square area function. Um, so it calculates as you guys know, the area of a square is just since all sides are the same, it's just one side times another side. Um, it's like side length squared. Um, so here we're just multiplying the side lengths together to get the area, and then we are putting the value back into the area variable, and then we're printing it out later on. Also, I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, so we're kind of gonna tie some of the stuff we took from the first some of the more initial exercises we did before, and now we're gonna bring it all together. We're gonna break out into the breakout rooms, and then they'll kind of guide you guys through the solution. But yeah, thank you guys. Awesome, awesome guys. How did it go? How was were you guys able to get help from your mentors or yes, yes. Any questions, concerns, anything like that that I can maybe go over or yes. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Oh, do you have a question or is that like yes, that's that you were able to get help? Awesome. Okay, able to get help. Okay. Awesome guys. Awesome, awesome. All right, guys, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll give you like 5 more seconds. Okay. I guess if not, then I will just be moving on. Okay, so they covered the exercise slides. Awesome. So using global in functions, just like in the draw function and setup function, if we want to use other variables inside of our own functions, we can use global variables. For example, here, um, let's say we want to change the value of the health variable that is not inside of our take damage variable. What we can do is we can call the global keyword and health. And then if we subtract from health inside of take damage, it will also impact the overall value of health of the variable at the top. So you guys can use global inside of functions as well. Okay. So a cool thing I want to just really talk about, if you guys kind of like money and stuff like that. Um, like for the Ignite points leaderboard, which is kind of like your questioning and answering the questions on the top hat and also like doing the assignments and stuff like that, you guys can win quite a bit of money. If you guys get first place in the Ignite Points leaderboard, then you guys can get $75. Second place is 50, third place is 25, and best presentation, you guys can get $50. If you guys can get first place and best presentation, that's a lot of money. So that'd be pretty nice for you guys. Um, so yeah, so best of luck, and I hope you guys win. Um, if you guys do have any questions about the prizes, feel free to ask Mihawk or me. Okay, awesome. Okay, so these are the exercises for Bug Busters this weekend, this week. Um, so sorry guys, I'm just gonna quickly look at something. Um, okay. What would we be presenting? Sorry, my mouse is. So what would we be presenting? Like your presentation on your projects that you guys have made. I think, um, yeah, your presentation on your projects that you guys have made for the like the night uh thing. But yeah, so this is Pythonic lava, the exercises for Pythonic lava. And then if you guys are like, this is just for fun. So this tells you how much time you held you down your mouse, like your mouse was clicked, and it increases the time held value, and then it creates a circle, a bunch of different circles. Okay. But yeah, these are the submission places, and perfect. Your question was answered. That's good. I was not actually 100% sure on that. Sorry about that. Um, okay. And if you guys are interested, you guys can also fill out this form right here, just so we can get some feedback and kind of see how our sessions are going. And if you guys think it's getting a little bit better from the first session or and stuff like that. So look into that. And then, yeah. Okay. I think that's it for today. Thank you guys for joining this session. And I really appreciate you guys coming in and joining the class. Okay, thank you.
স্কুলে পড়াবেন না ইউনিভার্সিটি পড়াবেন?
হুম
ইউনিভার্সিটি পড়াবেন না স্কুলে পড়াবেন?
এটা হলো তোমার